It is a Christmas miracle. The Fed has won the battle on inflation. All is right with the world. The Santa rally can continue. We'll be discussing the latest PCE data, the weekly close, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Welcome back, everybody. As we get going, do us that favor that we always ask for and greatly appreciate. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel if you have not yet. Nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kevin, PCE data came in under expectation, but the markets, well, they already priced that in because we did not see anything move in the futures this morning at 8:30 Eastern when it came out. And now we're seeing the markets be pretty stagnant. There were gains early. They've given them back in a lot of areas later on. We still see Coinbase continuing to be an absolute piss missile. But it would appear that, everyone's getting very excited that PCE came in below expectation. The number is now 2.6 for headline, 3.2 for core, excluding food and energy. So it's trending in the right direction. I know that you're still not buying it as a good sign. Care to give us your thoughts on why?
Dude, I was telling you before the show, this is arguably the best thing for anyone if we're anticipating some type of move to get us a new trend in the market, right? I said that we were probably going to see some really cool data, and we did. And I think the markets knew that we were going to see cool data too, because inflation's been trending to the downside. Now, we do have one thing that's kind of holding us back that we have to keep in mind. It's obviously the issues of supply chain and also just like energy in general, because we do see energy taking up here. However, I think that's corrective. I think that's something that's going to blow over in time. We're going to see that change. But for the most part, I think that the term disinflation is going to start being, at least on maybe not right away, but in the coming months of 2024, we're going to start seeing people use the word deflation, because I think that's really where we're heading. And as this data keeps getting, cooler each time, we haven't seen any ticks up in the past, 2 months or so. We got to start to question. Rates are 5.5. Inflation's getting a lot closer to that 2% rate. Are they going to start cutting, or are we going to start seeing some of the lagging effects of, extremely high rates being held for so long bring us even lower than 2% rate? So that's the big thing that we need to be concerned with. And we're starting to see it across the board with just demand, because again, it's a very different place now, even if inflation does tick up, because we know that consumers don't have the same amount of money that they did, say 12 months ago, right? A lot of those savings are absolutely gone. That's why we're seeing credit card debt continue to climb here. So even if we do see an inflationary spike here, it's a good chance that the consumers do not have the demand to meet that. We could just be seeing all these other retailers and all these people in the supply chain absolutely just eat shit. And then, once again, here we are in a deflationary stage in the, a global economy.
Everyone's eating shit in Kevin's world, but you know what?
Oh, yeah.
If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. We also saw abysmal earnings from Nike today, and it's bringing down other retailers as well. Nike stock currently down around 12% on the day. That is not good. I would say that'll be putting it lightly.
So I would say it's not great.
Yeah. Down 11.78%, 14.44 a share. Just pull up the chart real quick. The gap on this one is terrifying.
We're not talking about Gap. We're talking about Nike today. But Gap is also another retailer that's probably going to see the same thing, because all apparel retailers are probably in a really bad place. But Nike, what the heck's going on here? This is FedEx 2.0, right? We were talking about that FedEx gap that we saw a few days ago. I mean, here we are. This is the 4-hourly chart. Let's do the daily. Yeah, I mean, look at this. You went through the 50 and the 200 EMA on the daily. You know how bad that is? There's a death cross in here somewhere if this doesn't start getting above this 200. Will people buy it back? I don't know. But just for the sake of this show, and we how much we love to talk about filling gaps, this is one gap that might have to wait. I don't know if there's going to be enough demand to push this up one more time, right? Again, we're getting to the end of the year too. This has been a really good rally for Nike. So seeing this kind of cut back here, not surprising, but that's a really bad open to start the week. start the new fiscal quarter for Nike, and it's just begun, right? This is a huge gap to the downside. I mean, just think about how many people are probably longing it here that just, all their contracts just became from in the money to out of the money in a matter of seconds.
We talked about this not too long ago, like within the last couple of months, around, people saying that they had less money to spend and they were going to have to cut back in areas, including apparel and footwear. What does Nike sell? Exactly that. So I would say this is an area that is actionable if, and I say once again, this is not financial advice. Like, you need to be careful, especially if you're playing with leverage, but like shorting, if looking ahead and seeing, okay, what other, and it's getting, some of them are getting hit right now, so you don't have to do it at this moment, but like looking at other retailers, other apparel companies, and seeing when their earnings are and trying to get ahead of that could be the right play. You'll want to look and see how they're doing today as a result of this. And it's not a guarantee that their earnings are going to be comparable to Nike's, right? But if we're kind of looking for areas that people are going to continue to spend less and less, like, I collect sneakers, right? And this isn't surprising to me because I've been seeing Nike sneakers and even their new releases not selling out as quickly or not reselling for as much on the secondary markets. So the demand is absolutely slowing down here as people are like, well, I got to pay for, food. So I can't buy this new pair of Jordans this month. Like, there's absolutely a choice being made, and people having to, put more toward the necessities than they are the luxuries. And they're going to be cutting back. And this is an area where people will absolutely continue to cut back until a time comes where they're financially healthy again. And Lord knows when that's going to be.
Absolutely. I think this is something that we're going to see going into Q1. The thing is too, Nike's outlook and their earnings is technically Q4, right? They have that weird thing like FedEx where the earnings season's at a different time and everything like that. But if this doesn't give you some foresight into what we're expecting from Q4 earnings when we get them in mid-January, I don't necessarily know what is the giveaway. I'm not saying that everything is going to be bad across the board. Some things might be doing well, right? I mean, I think there's a case to say, I said Gap, for example. It's a little bit cheaper clothing than, say, a Nike or some of these other higher end brands. J. Crew, I don't know if they're even traded publicly, but there's probably a chance that they're going to be doing a little bit better as opposed to some of these other high luxury, companies or retail companies. And again, we know that there's a lot of issues with it. One, obviously employees. We know that the job market's still relatively strong. So there's probably going to want to cut in some areas like that, but that also bleeds into their profits. We also know that a lot of these brick and mortars are not profitable because people tend to shop more online, and it's a lot, more efficient for them to be shopping online. So it's going to be really interesting to see how some of those do go into Q1. I haven't deployed any cash into anything really, but I think I am going to look at some of those Q1 earnings dates, maybe have time horizon for February, March to maybe buy some cheap contracts. Hopefully next week, everything kind of pumps up a little bit. So some of those contracts get a little bit cheaper, just try and buy them close to in the money. But yeah, I don't think it's a terrible play here. And I think that Nike and FedEx are both giving us really good examples of what we could potentially be seeing in the broader economy, how consumers are spending their money before we actually get the Q4 earnings.
Yep. We are, the dollar is, let's talk about the dollar for a second here.
Yeah,
it's getting pummeled pretty good. We are at, let's see.
Is it though?
I mean, compared to where it was earlier this year.
Definitely. But I want to show everyone something that a very good trader, someone I respect, I have to pull up the dollar first. I respect on Twitter pointed out today, and I was like, yeah, I kind of see it, and it does line up with a lot of the things that I'm seeing, not just here, but also in other places. But this here, right? If we hold this line above 100.827, this could be an inverted head and shoulders. It's not the prettiest one in the world, but it's a triple bottom. You got the one that's deeper in the middle, and then we get a higher low at this point. I think it lines up with the stochastic RSI being extremely oversold on the daily. I mean, if we're looking at this thing right now, we're at 4 and 11 on the daily stochastic RSI. We just got the death cross, right? Tells me that's okay. We put in the death cross. That's a lagging indicator. We're probably going to start getting the rally at some point. And we were down a lot lower earlier off the PCE data, and the market actually is starting to bounce for the dollar today, which is really interesting. So is the dollar bottom in? I don't necessarily know until we get into Q1. Obviously, I want to see how it reacts in the beginning of the year. But we do know that equities are extremely overbought. Forex is just absolutely getting pummeled across the board, except for the euro, which is in a very similar place with equities. But if we look at the weekly, and I talk about this all the time, that weekly is still extremely oversold. And if we go to the monthly, we are still extremely oversold on the monthly. And the interesting thing here is we know that these nations do need dollars, and we're seeing China offload tons of treasuries, US treasuries, in the month of October. We haven't got the data for November, and obviously we wouldn't have it for December yet, but they decreased, I think, by 8 billion or so their US treasury holding, which is a good amount. That's a huge amount. Tells me that there is a bit of a global dollar shortage, and if they do want to make, I guess, good on their debt, then they're probably going to need, US dollars, because they just don't have that liquid cash that is absolutely needed to pay off their debts. And also, we know how important it is for their trade, and that's important for their economy in general, especially to have it start growing once again, because we know that there's a huge impasse there that they're trying to battle with. So I think there's a good case to say that the dollar bottom is very close to being in. We know that a lot of the macro factors are lining up to the fact that we're probably seeing deflation. And if that's the case, people aren't going to have as much money. They're going to probably want more money, more cash. A lot of these retailers and a lot of these businesses that have a lot of debts, they need to pay them off. They're not going to be wanting to hold some of these assets. I think they're going to prefer holding cash across the board. There's a good chance, I think, that we do see the dollar pump. Now, what would cause it to pump extremely high? Well, it would definitely have to be a financial crisis. That's the one thing that is a given. But we look across the board, this is the Japanese yen. It's got rejected once again. Obviously, that's on the monthly, but if we look on the daily, extremely overbought. Looks like we're probably going to get the death cross on that. Maybe that's what leads us into a bit of a pump, I think, here. I think the yen is definitely going to also lose strength to the dollar, because we do know that their inflation also came down yesterday, which tells me that, okay, the yen is probably going to be going up once again. It seems like Japan just loves quantitative easing. They don't necessarily, they talk tough game when it comes to rate hikes, but you never see them, or we're probably not going to see them if inflation continues to go down here. And we know that the only currency that's overbought, and I know I'm talking about Forex a lot here, but it's the euro. The euro is absolutely on a mission, and it's just double topping here. We got a wick up here a little bit higher, I guess. That means that we probably have a pretty good move to the downside coming. We're still not in this parallel channel. We broke out of it. Now we're below it still. 98.90 on the daily stochastic RSI. Let's look at the weekly. 83 and 85, completely overbought. And let's look at the monthly. 83 and 80. So this is the inverse of what the dollar is doing right now. We haven't seen them announce rate cuts or anything like that for Eurozone yet, but there's a good chance that this could be reversing. The dollar could be doing the opposite. There's a lot of things that are probably going to be switching going into the next year, and we're seeing a lot of the signs that we could be seeing that, I guess, the climax of both the euro and then also the bottom of the dollar very soon.
Okay. Let's look at crypto for a little bit here as we close out the week. Nothing too remarkable is happening at the moment in the markets. Pretty flat still. VIX is down a bit on the day with this news. That's not too surprising. And stocks remain, pretty flat. But we did see a little run up in ETH. Solana touched $99.99. And, everyone's taking their victory laps there. Kevin, I want you to do something for me.
Yeah, what's up?
Everyone's going to see their families for Christmas. Maybe the discussion of crypto comes up. Maybe people are asking about it. Give me your best 60-second pitch on why people shouldn't be buying crypto, and keep it as basic as possible.
Because the last time that your family asked you about crypto and whether you should have bought it was literally 2021 in December. And we know what happened right after. So the only time anyone ever asks you to buy crypto, you have the worst timing in the world to tell them when to actually buy it. That is probably the most base level thing. It's just remember what happened last time. I think that's kind of what people have to remember here. But the other thing is, okay, how was it expensive buying some of the gifts this year? Sure, yeah, I guess that's what people might say. But don't buy crypto. I think that's probably the thing you have to keep in mind. You're you got to make sure that you have the essentials right now. Crypto is not an essential. ETF's probably priced in at this point, how frothy this market is. The halving is probably priced in because everyone's expecting it. No one's expecting a downturn. And we know that there are tons of signs in the entire market, not just Tether, but also the exchanges, the government's involved. Probably February, we're going to see Binance and CZ, some more news around that because he's going to be, seeing a judge. He's going to be before court. It's going to be really interesting. I think that a lot of the momentum has already happened, and you don't want to necessarily catch the train too late.
Okay, I like that call. What in the crypto charts do you want to look at? Do you want to start with ETH? It's one of the few that is in the green today, kind of lagged behind everything else, back up over 2,300. It had been there earlier this month, taking a little bit of a pullback. Now it's kind of trailing Solana and some of the alts. Where do we think ETH is going from here in the short term?
In the short term, 24 to 25.
Okay.
I think 24 to 2,500 is a good level range. We were talking about us touching the top of this parallel channel. I think that there's plenty of room in the stochastic side to see this run up, right? We're only at 17.9 on the daily. We can already see that we're at 23.16. We broke through it. Yesterday, we were trading at roughly, 22, what was the height yesterday? 22.79. So we've had a good $77 pump since then. Could it push up a little bit more with Bitcoin dominance dropping here? Absolutely. I think we're probably going to get closer to that 2450, $2,500 level. And, past there, we got a lot of resistance around 25. We got all this from here back in February 2022, and then also a lot of the resistance we saw back in April of 2021. So I think right here, this might be topping it out for the parallel channel. And if we've been looking at this parallel channel, it's been pretty good at finding the bottoms and the tops, right? It fits really well, I think, on the bottom specifically, but on the top, this, September 2022, didn't even get close to the top there. Did a great job there in April 2023. A little bit short here in December 2023, but I think that we're going to see this maybe by January 2024. It's probably going to hit that 25 level. Maybe could hit it earlier, right? We see how fast this market moves, how Solana got from $22 a coin to 99.99 a coin as of yesterday. These markets move extremely fast when they want them to. That also tells me that there is a lot of, I won't say manipulation, but definitely market maker patterns that are forming across the board. There's no other way to say this, but this is, even if you want to say that this is bullish, okay, this is a bear flag. There's a pull. It's trading.
It's a bullish structure, Kevin. Next year's the halving. You forgot about that.
I always forget about that because I don't care about that. But and again, what's funny about the halving? I'm going to get into this right here. How much Bitcoin are we actually fucking talking about here that's going to get mined? Literally like 1.5 million Bitcoin. It's not even like, in the past halvings, it was, say for the first one, it had to be, whatever the Bitcoin supply is, by half. Here it's 1.5. It continues to dwindle at this point. I don't think it's going to have that huge of an impact on price. I think sentiment is one thing it does have an impact on, and that's kind of why we saw the price, move up going into it. But let's not forget, there's still that chance for a 40% drop. It's between 35 and 40% drop that we see for the Bitcoin halving. We haven't gotten that yet. Will we see it after the beginning of the year? Probably. I think that there's a lot of things that are lining up for late January, early February that could impact crypto. And that would line up with, fears of the banking crisis that maybe follow in March. So I think we're going to see crypto go before TradFi. But there's a lot of issues in crypto right now, and especially that CZ, the fact that he's going to be, seeing a judge in February. I think that's going to be really important because between now and then, a lot of the people that were in the markets, that were in these exchanges that had massive bags, whether it was Sol, BNB, KuCoin, Bitcoin, Matic, any of these coins that just dropped significantly. Once that guy talks, there's a good chance that this market's just going to absolutely give. I think that I have instinct that it's probably going to happen because a lot of friends are definitely leveraged there. This guy's taking a bit of a hit. Once he starts speaking, you're going to start seeing everyone run for the doors. So maybe February is when we start to see everything kind of bleed out, but this is not a bullish structure. If you want to look at it like this, zoomed in on just the one green candle. Yeah, I can't argue that it's not a bullish structure, but if we look at this on the macro, we're building towards something, and that's usually a pretty good sign that we're going to drop. Now let's look at Solana. I'm going to actually go to the Coinbase chart because
toward the fucking moon, Kevin, is what we're building toward. To the moon.
Fuck the moon.
Freaking moon. What did you just
No,
say?
fuck the moon. We're never going back there ever again. We never went there. I'm sorry.
Kevin,
Tinfoil hat.
anti moon. Could not have seen this coming.
Yeah. I just, you know what it is? I just hate the people who post emojis. It drives me insane, dude. I just hate the rocket ship and the moon emojis so much at this point. Yeah, I can't do the degen stuff anymore. But yeah, this is Solana. We wicked literally to 99.99. It couldn't be more perfect. Definitely people had a TP level at at 100. So anyone that was got their order filled up there, congrats. You guys are great at this market. You did a good job. But it seemed like it was going to go to 100, right? Came just a little bit short of it, but pretty much say that it's at 100 at this point. This one I don't think is going to give up yet. I think that there is a lot driving Solana, and it's not necessarily the thing that you want to be driving price, because there's a good chance that we could go to $50 for Solana in just, I would say matter of days, weeks. I'm not saying days from now, but when it does decide to go, I think we could be at $50 before you know it. Like it could be 2 days, and next thing you know, it's like, oh shit, this is down 48%. It's very possible with this coin. It depends on when they liquidate assets. We know that there's tons of supply out there for Solana that's not necessarily being accounted for, and that's a very dangerous thing. So yeah, I mean, if you bought Solana $8 and it's at $97 right now, congrats. But I'm not sold on this one bit, not even close to being sold on it. Let's look at Bitcoin just because we still have a little bit to go over. We talked about how $45,000 is likely to be hit. I think we're doing a pretty good job at getting there so far. We got a little bit of red here, but we can see that the daily stochastic RSI still got plenty of room to the upside. We're breaking out of this. This is a bullish formation. We're going down, making lower lows and lower highs, and we got the pole going up here. This is telling us that the trend is going to break to the upside. We're breaking up a little bit. I think we have a little bit more to go. Get us about 44,612 or so, and there's a good chance we could be at 45.5. I hate to say 46. I don't necessarily know how high Bitcoin is going to go before it does finally give. I mean, we could get to 45, drop down to say 40 or something like that, and then get another double top to 45. It's very possible that we do that type of structure. Let me just show you what that would look like. So say we go up here, then we go down here, and then we kind of build up like this once again. And then that could take us into February, where we're getting a double top at this point. We're finding a lot of resistance in this area here because it's support and resistance in historical patterns. And we could start to see this absolutely drop once again. Now, the thing is, would we find some support down here? Probably, because we would be testing back to important levels from whatever drop does come first. But I think that once we break this, $40,000 level, it's a good chance that we could just absolutely just go right through a lot of levels. Next thing you know, I could see a $10,000 drop in Bitcoin if we lose 40,000, and the market sentiment is just like, hey, let's sell. I think that's going to be very possible that we just don't hold support very long.
The ETF is coming. The ETF in January is going to be here. And then shortly thereafter, the ETH ETF. None of it's priced in. You can't even begin to imagine what this is going to do.
The ETF might be coming, but so is the RIF. The retail is fucked. That's coming too, bro. I think they're hand in hand. It's like they're riding a tandem bicycle at this point. Whoever falls first, they both skin their knees on I don't know, something.
Dude, speaking of bicycles for a second, I saw a guy. I was at the park with my kid, and there was a guy. You know what a penny farthing is?
Of course not.
Go look at what a penny farthing is. It is one of those old-timey bikes that has a gigantic front wheel in the front and the little wheel in the back. This guy was like 10 feet off the ground riding his penny farthing. I couldn't believe it. I even got a picture as proof. But that's neither here nor there. When you talk about bikes, I had to bring that up for a second because it was amazing.
Character. Speaking of bikes, scooters, Bird, bankrupt. Do you see that news? Bird scooters are another bankruptcy. Yeah, another one bites the dust. I mean, who needs a scooter when you can walk, right? I think that we're also, I mean, if that's not a sign of the market's coming down, you can't rent a scooter anymore. I don't know what is, but yeah, I mean, we're just going to see a lot more bankruptcies going into 2024. But that was just something that we didn't cover, but it's very interesting. Let's see what else we have here. I don't have anything much else on the crypto front. Maybe we can just take a look at total and see what's going on there. And then if there's anything else we want to look forward to,
all the lines and the channels and the
I know it sucks. It sucks, Jweb.
Absolute pandemonium here.
It is.
You said
I
the lines
don't
like
disagree.
all red and green. Like, get rid of the yellow one, get like a green line in there, like for Christmas. Like, make it look festive, or a blue and white one for Hanukkah. Like, come on.
I would rather do the blue and white one because this is going to be a good Christmas for a lot of people at the table. Next year might be a Black Christmas when it comes to. I guess it could be a Black Christmas depending on how you say it. Right? We're not in the red yet, but I'm talking too much, dude. I'm just babbling here.
Next
But
year, we're all gonna be sitting around like Tiny Tim's family, splitting one pea between 4 people, and Kevin's gonna be doing a tap dance because the whole fucking economy collapsed.
Hey man, to a tap dance. I
He's
don't
gonna
know
be
if I'm gonna.
Ebenezer Scrooge over there pinching his gold while the rest of us are in poverty.
Here's the thing. Even if I'm right, dude, the amount of stress that this entire market has just put you through mentally, just being so logical. I'm just gonna be listening to the Linkin Park's "Numb" and just like sitting on
Right
my
up.
porch. I don't smoke cigarettes or anything, but maybe having like a lollipop and just like, man, I can't take this anymore. I'm just messing with you guys. But yeah, total market cap right now on the daily. We need to take a look at what's going on here. There's plenty of more room to the upside. I hate to say that, but there is, right? We can see the daily stochastic RSI. We could push up a little bit higher. And again, the reason I say that is because we're not in a 5-wave pattern here. We see that it is an ABC corrective pattern from a 5-wave move that we had back in 2021. And we can't just say that we have a 5-wave move down, right? Because this is part of a larger macro pattern, just as much as, this was to the upside. That we can say this is a 5-wave move to the upside, even though it spans a greater period of time. And then obviously, the previous bear market and stuff like that, corrective pattern prior to that 5-wave pattern to the upside. So it's all connected, but you have to have a long-term horizon to see some of this stuff. But in the ABC pattern, it's a 5-3-5. So the first A wave going down is 5 waves. The B wave, which is where we are currently, is 3 waves to the upside, and then we have 5 waves down. So yeah, I mean, you'd think that the way I talk that this market is going to bottom out like instantly, right? That's just going to drop and game over. It's probably going to take a year or so before we get the full 5 waves that we're anticipating in this wave C. And we can say that the bear market is over. And it's going to be a lot closer once we get closer to that wave 4 at the bottom, which would also lead into the wave 5, which would be the absolute bottom of this market. But right now, we're just in an ABC corrective pattern. We need to start seeing some of these moves to the downside. So in other words, we need to see a drop down here and then a lower high, a high that just doesn't break wherever we're currently at 1.62 trillion, right? That would give us indication that was the wave 1. Now we're in a wave 2. And then once we get that second bounce, and we don't put in another high, that's your sign the market's probably going to drop significantly. That's going to be your third wave of that last 5 waves. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like, imagine we dip here, get a little bit of a bounce. Imagine something massive like that, another little bounce. And the second little bounce down here is probably going to give you your indication that, okay, you got one more move to the downside, and that could be the end of the bear market. That's something we need to keep an eye on, have that long-term horizon, because, yeah, right now, people think that this structure is 100% bullish. It's not. It's purely corrective, and we're not in the 5-wave move that we put in over here, which means that this isn't invalidated one bit. This is still corrective. This gets invalidated when we see this move come in, when we get that lower high, and then it doesn't put in another high, because that tells us that, okay, the height of this ABC corrective move in this B wave was the C wave up here. C wave, dude. I said C wave. I definitely need some sleep this weekend.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. You're hallucinating. It's time to get the party started.
All right. So pretty much inflation's cooling off, supply chain issues, not a big deal. The banks are screwed. Oh, that's the last thing. That's how we're going to end this off. If the banks weren't so screwed, then why did they borrow $7 billion more? And the best thing to, question right now is how many of these banks are regional banks and how many of these banks are big banks? I think there's really, that's a good question to ask, because I don't necessarily know looking at this. But when we just look at the reverse repo rate, or not the reverse repo rate, but the bank term funding program, that red line there is when this program ends. And we are just going parabolic here. We just put in another 6.12% to the upside this week. It's another, what is that, $7.57 billion that banks are taking advantage of. They got to pay it back next year, and this window gets cut off. So when this gets cut off, guess what? Liquidity is gone in the market. That is a very scary thing. And the other thing that, is showing us that we are heading for a recession, and I'm saying recession now because I feel confident in it, is when we look at the 2-year. All right, this 2-year here is on the daily. Let's pull this up. There we go. We're going to get that death cross, if not next week, by the first of the year, first few days of the year of 2024. But we're down 0.57%. That yield's coming down. If we look at the 10-year, the yield's up 0.23%. That's what you want to see. We need the 2-year to drop faster than the 10-year. Once that happens, that tells us that we're going to be reverting back to zero. And since then, we've put in 4 points. That's gotten us closer to that zero level. So very interesting stuff. It's going to develop further in next year, but we have to kind of have that foresight looking at what the data is giving us right now.
All right. That is how we're going to wrap it up today. We're going to be back on Tuesday for our last show of the year. Obviously taking Monday off so we can celebrate Christmas with our families. We'll be back on Tuesday, wrap up the year, give our 2024 bold predictions, and then we're going to be closing it out for 2023. So appreciate everybody for joining us today. If you have not yet, like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you so much for watching our channel. We really do appreciate all the people who join us for this. Have a great holiday weekend if you are celebrating. Even if you're not celebrating, have a great weekend regardless. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Happy holidays and take care.